Hey folks, this is Lee Smith with Spouses Buying Houses. I am doing a Periscope, my first Periscope, so I'm sure this is going to be a disaster. But we'll go with it and see what happens. Hey, I'm going to do a thing about 5 key things to know about turnkey rental properties here in Indianapolis. Every day I get calls from out of state, out of country investors, and they are in a world of hurt. They've been sold a bill of goods and told that a house was worth a lot more than it was, and told that they would get a lot more rents than they would, and so I'm just I get tired of it. I'm sorry to see people lose money. I don't want to lose money. I know they don't want to lose money. That's not why we're in the game. So anyways, 5 key things to know about turnkey rentals. Number 1, location, location, location. If somebody brings you a deal, do not trust what they're telling you. I mean, you could take it in with a grain of salt until you build up a relationship with these folks. They're going to tell you, I can count on one hand how many wholesalers I've worked with and are good, and I've lost 4 of those fingers in a chainsaw accident. So what I'm telling you is you want to double check your numbers. Go out to hotpads.com. Some people like Rent-A-Meter. There's a bunch of other websites you want to go out and find out what you think rents are going to be in that area. Indianapolis is very much street to street. So what may be a rental here that's $500 a month, one block over it may be $800, and then another block over maybe $1,000 a month. So there's a big difference. We see it all the time. So you want to go out and you want to do some research on what you think the rents are going to be. Pull up like a quarter-mile map. When we do, we offer to our investors for $5, we'll do a CMA, a comparative market analysis. What we do is we pull up a property, we pull up quarter-mile radius. We do active, pending, and sold properties within the past year, and then we do 2 years of lease history. So you get to see what the leases are going for within a quarter mile. Like I say, just a quarter-mile radius is all we do. We may even switch it up and just do a neighborhood to kind of get an idea of what a neighborhood is doing. So it's definitely, that's how we get our values of what things will sell for. We give you a spreadsheet form where you can look and see all the items, like, okay, this is square footage, this is number of bedrooms, number of baths, all the information you're going to need to see. We give it in a spreadsheet format, so all the active, pending, and solds over the past year and all the leases over the past 2 years. You can see that all in spreadsheet form. You get to look at the individual listings, so you get to see all the pictures. You also get a map view, so you can actually look at a map, and then you can see that where the properties are in relation to your property and what they're going for rate-wise. So you definitely need to do your own research. And, even when you deal with me, I tell people when I first get new investors, I say, hey, double check my numbers, because what I'm telling you may not be true, and I want you to make sure that you did your due diligence and you know what you're getting into, right? So, call around to a couple realtors, a couple property managers, see what they say. What are the how long is it going to take to find a renter, your vacancy rates, and so on and so forth. So you need to do your own research. You need to be comfortable with what you're doing. All right, number 2, condition, deferred maintenances. Let me just tell you that when that owner is getting ready to put up a property and it's for sale, he is not going to be doing any maintenances. He is going to be deferring those maintenances, meaning he's leaving it for you. I mean, if you got a car you're getting ready to sell used, you're not going to be changing the oil and going crazy and doing all that stuff. It's very few and far between that somebody will do that sort of stuff for you. So I always tell people, when you're buying a rental, a turnkey rental, expect that you're going to have to spend some money. And I would say probably 3 to 5% of purchase price is what you need to have set aside. Or probably like $3,000, something like that, just for deferred maintenances, stuff that they hid that you didn't find. Unless you're getting an inspection, which is probably $300 now. I think you're going to have some deferred maintenances that you're going to have to pay for, and even some of that stuff just slips by the inspector, even though the inspectors are brutal right now. All right, number 3, what are the numbers? Run the numbers, folks. And I'm not talking about, it's $500 a month is what I'm going to be getting, and it's going to, only cost me this. You need to know taxes. You need to know insurance. You need to know, what your vacancy rates are going to be. You need to know what your average maintenances are going to be. You need to know if you're going to be paying some accounting, if you're going to pay some advertising, if you're going to pay for property management. A lot of people think in Indianapolis, hey, it's first month's rent to get a tenant in, and then it's 10% of each additional month's rent. Well, that number is 18 to 20% of your gross rents. So it's not like, oh, I'm only paying 10% a month for property management. No, you're paying first month's rent and 10% of each additional month's rent. At Spouses Buying Houses, we don't do that. We charge $100 to place somebody, and then we do 12% of the gross rents. So you're basically at 12% is what we charge. But we don't negotiate, but we do a lot of stuff that nobody else does. So you need to know your numbers. There's a big difference between 12% and 18 to 20%. Even some of the companies that are out there that are doing less, like one of my buyers just called me, or one of my owners just called me, and he said, hey, Billy Joe Bob down the street's got a property management company. He's only charging 75% of the first month's rent and then 8.75% of each additional month's rent. I said, send me the property management agreement. I go in there, and there's all sorts of charges. They get to keep all your late fees. They get to keep any money for like extra rentals. They get to keep all the pet fees. They get to keep, it was just an ongoing list. They had a charge for putting your house into their system. They had a charge for placement. They had a charge for taking over an existing lease. There was just charge after charge after charge. You need to know what your numbers are, folks. You need to be prepared and understand that stuff. All right, here's another big one that always seems to elude people. Utilities, especially when you get into multifam properties. I can't tell you how many times that I go look at a multifam property, and one of my biggest things is I always look to see how many gas meters, how many water meters, how many electric meters. Because all of a sudden your house that you were planning on renting with 4 units, and you got to pay utilities, or you got to split those utilities up between the tenants, it's a mess. So you definitely need to be aware of it. That's not to say that you can't do it when they're shared utilities. It's a lot bigger mess. So you definitely have to be paying attention to what utilities are at the property and who pays them. Ideally, you want the tenants to pay for all utilities, especially in Indiana. All right, and my last one, number 5, existing tenants, good or bad. Some people like existing tenants. You buy a property and it comes with tenants. Some people don't like existing tenants. Me personally, I just don't even count them like they're there. Because here's the situation that you run into. I had a situation, I personally bought a 4-unit building. It was actually 2 duplexes on the same lot. There was 3 of the 4 were rented. Ran my numbers based off of that, and then as we get to closing, I looked at the rent rolls, I looked at everything looked good. After closing, I find out that two of those 3 tenants were actually family members of the guy who sold me the house, and they had not paid rent the whole time they were there. The one son called me and told me they had different names, so it wasn't, It was, I tried to do my due diligence, so, we can all make mistakes. Every day I learn a new way to lose money. That's not a good thing, folks. I did my due diligence, and they were all separate, different last names. And so, what do? So I went in. This was kind of funny, and we'll all laugh at my expense here. So I went in, and the one son told me, hey, I'm giving you my 60 days notice. And I said, okay, well, that's fine, but you still got to pay your rent. And he says, no, I'm giving you my 60-day notice. My dad didn't tell me he was selling the place this fast, and I'm giving you 60 days notice because I'm not going to live here after 60 days. And I said, you still have to pay rent. And he said, no, that's not how it works. I've been in this business for a long time. And I said, you're 18. You haven't been in this business that long. And so, anyways, long story short, he moved out. But I ended up with 3 of my 4 units vacant, and the 4th one was a crackhead. So, she paid her rent, but she was late, and I don't want to know where the dollars came from. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, that property, we turned it around. So here's what I'm telling you. Even in good situations where we go into a property management, we go into a situation, hey, there's multiple people there. I don't plan on them staying. I can't tell you how many times that we go into a situation where there's an existing tenant. All we do is tell them, hey, look, Nothing is changing. The only thing that's changing are that where you're sending your checks and who you call when you have a problem. Everything else is remaining the same. Just those two things. Who you call when you got a problem and who you send your checks to. Those are the only two things that are changing. And in multifamilies, we lose a lot of tenants. And in a lot of these, especially in lower income houses, changing of ownership is just, that's when the tenants decide it's time to go. And they just leave and you're just holding the bag. So this is what I'm going to tell you folks. Don't count on existing tenants sticking around. I would say that probably 50% of the time we lose them. So, you need to have that existing reserves to where you can go in and let's face it, turnover is not cheap. So when a tenant leaves, you're going to probably going to have to repaint. You're going to have to redo the flooring. You're going to have to do some other stuff. Maybe replace some appliances, do some plumbing, stuff like that. So you need to have that money in reserve for when those tenants leave. People don't get that, and that's a huge expense. And so don't go in expecting that your tenants are going to stay, because they're probably not. And another thing about existing tenants is sometimes these guys, the turnkey guys, they buy the properties and they rehab them and they'll throw anybody in. They'll say they won't check or do any of this stuff, and they'll be like, oh, I got you $800 a month. Yeah, the guy paid 1 month's rent and that went straight to the guy who's selling it to you, and then after that you're never going to get your money. So you need to make sure that, these tenants, that goes back to number one, location. You need to know what the rents are. If you're buying a house and it's rented at $800 a month and your numbers tell you that it's only worth $600 a month, yeah, you're going to have problems with that tenant. So, I'm cynical. I'm a person who likes to believe that I look at the worst case scenarios, and if I'm okay with the worst case scenarios, then I'm okay with the deal. So definitely think along those lines. I mean, if you're looking at a property and they're paying $800 a month and the market rate is $600 a month, and you notice when you did your walkthrough and whatnot, when you were looking at the property, that, hey, if this tenant leaves immediately, I'm going to have $3,000 worth of repairs. If the numbers still work, the numbers still work. Even if they leave and it's $3,000 worth of repairs and then you're back down to $600 a month, plan for $600 a month. And then that way, if they stay and they keep paying $800 a month for 6 months or 12 months or 10 years or 50 years, nobody lives that long, but you know what I'm saying, then great, awesome. But you planned for $600 a month and $3,000 in repairs, and you're golden. You know what I'm saying? All right, folks, it's Lee Smith. SpousesBuyingHouses.com. That's our website that shows all of our rentals, and there's some links in there for investors and whatnot. You can give me a call. It's Lee Smith, and my phone number is, our office number is 317-537-7249. Again, 317-537-7249. If you have any questions, call the girls. They'll flag it and send it over to me. Hope it was good. Hope it's informative. If you have some questions or whatnot, then lay it on me, because I'm looking for stuff to Periscope about. All right, thank you guys. Now I got to figure out how to turn this off.